it is really important to understand cell references. So here we have a spreadsheet with a couple of cell references. So let's look at cell A1. It has a reference to cell B $1. Cell A4 has a reference to $B $1. And A7 has a reference to $B1. Okay, so all of these have a dollar sign in them somewhere. The dollar sign locks whatever value comes after. So if I copy and paste this cell, the B can change, but the 1 is locked. So the B is the column component, the $1 is the row component. So what this formula is saying is essentially, here I am in column A, it's referencing the column B. Because this is a relative reference, because it has no $sign in front of that B, it's really saying multiply or refer to the cell one column to the right in the first row. Okay, so what's going to happen if I right click, copy this, and I paste this here in cell B1? What is the cell reference going to be? If you understand the concepts here, you should be able to predict what's going to be here. So let's take a look. I'm going to hit enter to paste that. The reference is updated to C1. Because this formula really says refer to the column to the right in the first row, when I copy and paste that, it's still referring one column to the right in the first row. Now what's going to happen, I'm going to use the fill handle now to drag this down. What's the cell reference going to be in A2? Try to predict. Pause the video if you're not sure. The answer is same, B1. It's still referring one column to the right, and we locked the first row so that when we copy this down a row, the cell reference to that first row did not change. Let's take a look at cell A4. So both the row and the column are locked. So what happens if I copy this to the right and I copy this down? Well, the column and the row were locked. So if I look here, the cell reference is the same. By putting those $signs in front of the column and the row, no matter where I copy and paste this, it's always going to refer to cell B1. So I just selected that text. I'm going to hit escape so I don't edit anything. So let's take a look at this formula now. This is referring to $B1. So that means the reference to column B is locked. But the row is not locked. It's free to change. So if I copy this across the row isn't changing. Where I'm placing this is not changing, but I'm placing it from column A into column B, but I locked column B, so that reference did not change. However, if I copy this down one row, let's take a look at what happens to that formula. All of a sudden we have a reference to cell B2 instead of B1. Because I copy this down a row, the row incremented by 1. So really what this formula is saying, refer to column B, and we're going in relation to this cell, we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells. So when I copy that down, this cell still references a cell 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells up. Let's just see what happens. Let's get rid of that $sign. If I copy this over, what should that cell reference be? If you said C1, you were correct. If I copy it down, what should that cell reference be? If you said B2, you are correct. So let's just use this in a simple example. I mean, you can fill in those values just based off of what we have here in the answers. Let's say I want to multiply this product base cost times the discount. So I'm going to multiply. Let's do this the wrong way first. Let's do it wrong 2 ways. Base price times the discount. If I just multiply the base price times the discount, it's giving me a discounted cost of 50 cents. Let's say I want the advertised price, so I'm going to change that formula. So I'm going to do, in parentheses, 1 minus the discount percent. So $9.50. So what this formula says, really, multiply the value one column to the left times 1 minus the value in one column to the left and up 1, 2, 3 cells. Because I'm using a relative reference, this formula is calculated in relation to this cell right here. So if I copy this down 3 columns, let's see what happens. I get some bad data here. Okay, so if I look in this cell, it's performing the calculation the same way. If I highlight the formula bar, it shows me the cells being used in this formula. It's multiplying the value in the cell to the left times 1 minus the value of the cell to the left and up 1, 2, 3 cells, which is blank. So it's basically treating that as a 0. And so this is not doing what we want it to do. We always want to refer to the value in this discount percentage cell. So what I can do is I want to lock that row 12. So I can put a $ right there in front of that 12. It doesn't mean $12, it just means wherever I copy and paste this formula, that 12 is not going to change. So now if I fill that down the column, everything works the way I want it to. So if I inspect this formula, it's multiplying the value to the left times the value in the same column, but locking that row 12. Now, if you had created this formula, if you just locked that entire cell reference, the column and the row, and pasted it down, you'll get the exact same numbers. It's going to work the same way. The $ in front of the B is optional. Doesn't hurt to include it in this scenario. Not a bad idea, but not absolutely necessary. So it's important to understand that these absolute and relative references they don't really change the calculations that occur. They just change the formulas, the result of the formulas when you copy and paste them into new cells. Very frequently in Excel, we want to copy and paste our formulas so we perform our calculations on a wide range of data. So it's important to know how to refer to the cells that we want to include in our calculations.